podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, March 6th, 2022. This is episode 1874. Enjoy. No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks. Whoa, hey, how are you today? Time to talk tech. Computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number if you want to talk high-tech with me. 888-827-5536, toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still call, but you have to use Skype out or something like that to make the phone call. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, techguylabs.com. That's free, open to all. If you hear something on the show and you say, what was that? Hello? You can just go to the website. It'll all be there. Links. A transcript of the show after the fact, and audio and video too, so you can search for and find and achieve the things you need for free. techguylabs.com. Tuesday, day after tomorrow, Apple event. I only say that because if you're in the market for an Apple thing, you probably should wait, just in case they announce the new thing on Tuesday. We don't know what thing. The rumors are a new iPhone SE with 5G. That makes sense. They're due. A new iPad Air, kind of with a new design. I think the Pro design, squared edges and a Type-C connector. That makes sense. They're due. Then the rest is up in the air. A Mac Mini, a Pro, maybe, perhaps. A new display. People are talking about that. A new, Apple only makes one display and it's $7,000. This may be maybe a new, less expensive display. But again, it's just rumor. Just rumor. But if you're in the market for one of those types of things, the iPhone isn't going to get updated, just the little iPhone, the SE. So, obviously, if you have an iPhone 10, 11, 12, 13, you can stick with those. Those aren't going to be supplanted. But I tell you that just so you know, just so you're aware, things are coming. The other thing to pay attention to when an Apple event happens is sometimes the older stuff now is discounted or more easily available, that kind of thing. Do you have a drone? Ukraine needs you. Ukrainian drone enthusiasts, the hobbyists, the folks who are doing real estate overflights and things like that, pictures of joggers in the park now signing up to repel Russian forces. Kyiv needs you and your drone at this moment of fury, said the Ukrainian military Facebook post. Yes, they're recruiting on Facebook. This is such a different world that we live in. Such a different world. Attackers can force Amazon Echoes to hack themselves with self-issued commands. What? It's an academic research. Somebody would have to be close enough to your Echo to say something, to say a command. But once they do, they can get your Echo to pair with their Bluetooth-enabled device. And then after that, you can issue commands. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. But just, if you can hear your neighbors through the walls, then you're probably at risk, I guess. If you had thin apartment walls and you could hear him say, Echo, pair with my phone. Kind of through the wall. And if it's loud enough for the Echo to hear them, and the Echo said, bling. I guess from then they're close enough to use their Bluetooth. So yeah, you know what? I guess this is for a warning for apartment dwellers. Be careful out there. Be careful out there. What else? Volunteer hackers. 20 years ago, I took part in a documentary about hackers. And I said at the time, these hackers have skills that might make them freedom fighters in a time when a repressive regime took over. You have the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. You probably should have another amendment, the right to hack, because that's how you're gonna defend yourself against despotism in the future. Well, it took 20 years, but it's happening. Volunteer hackers from all over the world are converging on the war in Ukraine. This is from today's New York Times. The hackers have declaimed a number of disruptions over the past week, blurring the lines between amateurs and groups linked to governments. The Times features a picture of Mikhailo Fedorov, who is Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine and their Minister of Digital Transformation. Fittingly, he's in a black hoodie. He's not in a suit. "We are creating an IT army," he tweeted yesterday. That's another thing. It's the military's conscripting, or not conscripting, but enlisting on Facebook. And the Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine is asking for hackers on Twitter. The hackers came from around the world, says the New York Times. They knocked Russian and Ukrainian government websites offline, graffitied anti-war messages onto the homepages of Russian media outlets, and leaked data from rival hacking operations. And they swarmed into chat rooms awaiting new instructions and egging each other on. I was worried about cyber warfare. It turns out that, that hasn't happened really. But there is this kind of militia of hackers getting involved. The online battles, says the Times, have blurred lines between state-backed hackers and patriotic amateurs, making it difficult for governments to understand who is attacking them and how to retaliate. Well, you know what? 1776. That was why the Redcoats had such trouble in the Revolutionary War, right? It's the first use of guerrilla warfare. They're not wearing red coats and they keep running in and out of the bushes. How do we stop that? It's insurgencies, and now hackers are getting in the act. Wild. Speaking of hackers, NVIDIA, the folks who make the graphics cards, have been hacked, and now things are happening. Things are breaking. The hackers who briefly did a ransomware thing, which was, I think, quickly repelled because NVIDIA, I guess they have a good IT department, right? And they were prepared or whatever. But they did, while they were in there, not for very long, they said, they were able to download a terabyte of important information. And so they're starting to leak that out. That's the new thing, right? You threaten to encrypt somebody's data, but at the same time you download stuff and you threaten to, you're blackmailing them, release that data to the world. They say, we have your source code. We're going to release. They're not Russian. I don't know where they're from. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. Well, I'll do a Russian accent. We have your source code. We're going to release this into the world. Be careful. Actually, it's Boris Badnov. Not really Russian. It's a cartoon character. As part of the leaks, 2 code signing certificates have been compromised. Now, what are those? Those are the certificates that legitimate companies use to sign their drivers. Windows won't run them unless they're signed. The reason this is bad now is because you can attach those certificates to malware, and I might download them, and then if I have, Windows might have said, well, this is unsigned, I won't install it, except now it is. I don't know how bad that is because, of course, NVIDIA can revoke those, I think, can revoke those certificates. I'm thinking, I'm hoping, wishing, and they won't be good anymore. Samsung also got hacked. Hackers leak 190 gigabytes of alleged Samsung data. By the way, with the NVIDIA break-in, and I'm presuming the Samsung break-in, and one of the things they get is employee information. And so they're releasing employee passwords, things like that. And in fact, the war in Ukraine is as ripe as is any national or international or global tragedy, ripe for exploit by malware, bad guys. Threat actors, this is from bleepingcomputer.com. Threat actors, I love that. Threat actors. No, not Nicolas Cage. Threat actors are distributing malware using phishing themes related to the invasion of Ukraine. This happens every time. Ukraine is a manufacturing hub for parts, and factories have had to close. Emails going out saying, hey, we can't get you your parts, except maybe not. Here's an email Bitdefender found. Dear suppliers, due to the current situation of the escalating Ukraine-Russian conflict and its potential impact to the manufacturing industry and the extended supply chain, oh, bad grammar. So, we would like to survey the current situation of suppliers and backup plans. Please fill out the survey form as attached. What's wrong with this picture? Well, it says, kindly complete this survey by March 22nd at 1500. Kindly, please. What's wrong with this picture? Do you know? Yeah, the attachment. It's a zip archive. Instead of a survey, it contains a remote access Trojan, which takes over your machine and gives them access to it. So, as always, be cautious. Be cautious. Don't just. I've inveighed against attachments for so long. They're just dangerous. But you know, my wife, who runs our business, she says, "But I have to send attachments, and other people have to send attachments to me." And she had a DocuSign. She said, "Well, I'm just going to attach this to an email and send it." I said, "Don't, because." But no, that's how business gets done. I understand. 8888 Ask Leo. That's how business gets done here, right? By the phone. No phishing attempts here. Although one time a guy pretended to be somebody else and then said Baba Booey to you. But other than that, 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Uh, 8888 Ask Leo. You wouldn't want to get, if you were at a bar and a guy said, "Hey, what's your number, baby?" You wouldn't want to give 888-827-5536 out, would you?
I might, instead of my own number.
And then he might say,
that might be a good idea.
"Wait a minute, you have a toll-free line?"
Number? What kind of business are you in, lady?
You know, that's actually an interesting strategy.
Weren't those 877 numbers, though?
Well, but even then, if you just give it a toll-free number, that's going to give him pause if he's paying attention at all. If he hasn't
Thank you for giving me dating tips.
A few too many Harvey Wallbangers already. He won't. Huh? What? Huh? Who should I? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kim Schaffer, the phone angel, a wonderful, wonderful person. Also wearing a black hoodie today, like Mikhailo Fedorov.
There's no hoodie part, though.
Oh, there's no. It's just a
black.
Just a black shirt. Okay.
I'm dressing like a.
Wear your hoodie. Get your hoodie
like
and your.
Elizabeth, what's her face?
Oh yeah, Elizabeth Holmes.
That girl, yeah, her.
Yeah, there's now a TV show
Yeah,
about.
Is
it good?
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
It's a great story. Great story. Who should I talk with first?
Let's go to Adelaide.
Australia?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Alan in Adelaide, Australia.
Good day, mate. Hello, Alan. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Hey. Welcome.
Hi, Leah.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
No worries. So anyway, I've got an older gigabyte motherboard that does support TPM 2.0, or supposedly it does anyway. So you can go into configuration and enable TPM support. That works fine. Then there's TPM state. You go to enable it, reboot the system, and it just keeps kicking back to disabled. No matter what I do, I can't get this chip to be visible to the operating system. Their support is absolutely useless. I thought maybe you or somebody in your chat room might have some ideas on it.
And you really, really want Windows 11.
Ideally, yes.
Is it saying you don't have TPM, or is it saying you don't have appropriate system and I won't install?
Well, it doesn't recognize the chip. Like, the board recognizes the chip. It knows it's
You have to. So the reason I'm asking, you said it's an older computer. You have to have an 8th generation Intel or later. You do have an 8th generation processor?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No,
So it may not even be the TPM. Windows 11 will stop you for either of those.
Right. Well, I know the CPU is unsupported. It's actually an older AMD FM2 series CPU. So
that's why I'm asking you if it's giving you an error message saying blaming TPM, or if it's just saying, no, I can't install on this.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not so worried about the CPU not being supported.
Well, Windows, Microsoft is worried about it. It doesn't, you understand, Microsoft, and by the way, we know this is completely arbitrary. Windows 11 will work on any machine Windows 10 works on, and I presume you're using Windows 10 right now, right?
It is using Windows 10.
Yeah. So we know Windows 11 isn't so different that it should not have a problem. So you can get by. There are 3 criteria for installing Windows 11. You nailed one of them, TPM 2.0. You also have to have an 8th generation Intel processor or later. We'll work on AMD processors, but I'm not sure what the requirements are on the AMD processor. And it has to have a certain...
Ryzen second.
It has to be Ryzen, so you already looked at this. And you also have to have 8 gigs of RAM. So there are ways around it. Microsoft actually has told you how to get around it. They have a registry hack.
Right.
Have you tried that?
Yeah, no, I can install it. In fact, I have installed it in an unsupported state.
Yeah.
But I would very much like to get the TPM functionality working on this board.
Oh, I see. Okay. You've looked in BIOS, because a lot of times it comes with TPM, but it's not enabled. You've looked in BIOS.
Right. Now, that's where I'm at, is in the BIOS, and I think they gave me some instructions about installing Windows 8, enabling BitLocker. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. The TPM is not visible to the operating. The BIOS is stopping it.
Keith512 in the chat room is saying on AMD they call it FTPM.
A newer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this system's too old for that.
Oh, okay. Well, I do. So tell me again, not for my benefit, but for the benefit of anybody listening who might have a solution for you. Which AMD processor is it? You said a Zen?
No, it's an FM2, specifically an AMD A105700. It's an older one.
Okay. So that's and who does the motherboard?
Gigabyte.
And it's a Gigabyte motherboard. So if anybody listening has figured out how to turn it on TPM2 with a 815700 on a Gigabyte motherboard, this is the place to call, or, join us in the chat room or something like that. That obviously, Alan, I have no idea. It's not in my database of fixes, so I don't really know. If you can't turn it on in the BIOS, TPM, Intel's trusted platform module, is a security thing that when it first came out, there were some qualms about it. But it's kind of like the Secure Enclave on your iPhone or your Samsung device. It's a hardware security chip that is good for security. And sometimes it's in software, not hardware. And I think that's the case with this processor. Sam Abuelsamid, Car Guy, next. Oh, I shouldn't sing. Sorry. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? It's me, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We're going to take a little break from calls momentarily, as we always do at this time, for Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy. He's an expert in the technology of vehicles, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, podcaster at wheelbearings.media. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you today?
I am well. What's up in the world of cars?
Well, I took the Miata out for the first drive of the year yesterday. It's temperatures up into the did you 55 yesterday and 60 today.
Did you throw out the roof so you can't take it out unless it's warm?
I didn't throw it out, but I never put it up. The only time I ever put up the top on my car is when I'm washing it. That's it.
Is it a rag top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
really, it's not a roof. It's a roof in name only.
Well, no, it's a roof. I mean, it'll keep out the rain. So if it starts raining while I'm driving, it'll keep me dry.
Yeah.
It keeps the water out when I'm washing the car, but the rest of the time it stays down because it's a convertible. It's supposed to be driven with the top down. If you're not going to drive, if you have a convertible and you don't put the top down, then why did you buy a convertible?
That's a good question.
Because almost all convertibles look worse with the top up than they do with the top down.
Yeah.
But just leave the top down. If you don't want your hair messed up, don't buy a convertible.
Sam, it seems you have strong feelings on this matter.
I have an opinion or two on this topic. I see people driving around in convertibles with the top up on beautiful days like today, and I wonder why did you bother? But speaking of convertibles,
yes,
this week Polestar, which is it started off as a company in the mid-'90s developing race cars based on Volvos for touring car racing.
That explains the name Polestar, a star of the pole position.
Well, actually, it's more about the pole
the
star,
North
like
Star.
the North Star. Yeah,
hey, I was trying to be clever.
In Sweden.
Yeah.
But at any rate, they started off, and then they got into building high-performance road cars for Volvo. Volvo eventually bought Polestar. Then Volvo got bought by Geely, the Chinese manufacturer, and then they decided, we're gonna make Polestar a dedicated EV brand, and so they set it up, sort of spinning it out again, and they launched their first cars a couple of years ago, the Polestar 1, which is actually a plug-in hybrid coupe, high performance, and then the Polestar 2, which is available now that you can buy as a sedan. And they've got more models coming out. But they showed a new concept this week called the Polestar O2, as in oxygen. And it's a convertible. It's a roadster. And it's quite a stunning looking roadster, I think. And they haven't said yet if they're going to build this. But it's based on the same, a new platform that they've been developing. It's a bonded aluminum platform that they're going to use for their upcoming Polestar 5.
It's interesting. We for years cars were made of steel, but people are trying different materials. I guess because for weight reasons.
Yeah, aluminum is considerably lighter than steel.
Yeah,
and depending on how you put it together, it can be just as strong. I mean, as an example, Ford has been building F-150s out of aluminum since 2015, and they're plenty strong. It's not an issue. And what's interesting, one of the interesting things about this vehicle and this new platform that Polestar is developing, Polestar is based in Sweden, but they established a new R&D facility in the UK, and they hired a bunch of people from companies like Lotus. Lotus, the sports car maker, back in the 90s, they developed, when they were developing the Elise, which eventually became the basis of the original first-generation Tesla Roadster. They wanted to make the Elise really lightweight and make it out of aluminum, and they had to figure out ways to build this thing.
What about safety? I mean, steel, is strong. I don't want to drive around in a tin can.
Aluminum can be plenty strong as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
It can be just as strong. It can be just as strong as steel.
Hence the bonded aluminum, like plywood. Yeah.
Right. So what they generally with steel vehicles, most of the parts are welded together or bolted together.
Right.
But in order to get, one of the things they wanted to do with the Elise and that they're doing with the new Polestar platforms, they wanted to use extrusions. So an extrusion is when you take metal and you heat it up till it's almost like a paste. It's not quite liquid, but pliable. And then you force it through a die. So it's kind of like when you squeeze your tube of toothpaste, you're extruding the toothpaste out of the end of the tube.
Didn't Elon do that with some Teslas? Sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he got the technology from Lotus.
Interesting. Okay.
A bunch of Lotus engineers have worked at Tesla. And so Tesla originally developed this using extrusions, and they were trying to figure out, okay, how can we join these parts together? And they actually worked with some companies that build adhesives, and they developed some structural adhesives to glue these parts together.
Okay. Now, I'm sure it's very strong, but it does make people nervous when you say you're driving an aluminum car that's been glued together. There's kind of that sounds like not so good. It sounds like it's maybe made out of chewing gum wrappers.
Yeah, no. These adhesives that they've developed for joining these aluminum components. So they've got a mix of castings, extrusions, some stampings, and to join it all together, they developed these industrial adhesives that are incredibly strong. It's stronger than welds.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this is the kind of technology that they're using. A number of other manufacturers have adopted it. You mentioned Tesla. Tesla has used it in the Model S and the Model X. And of course,
so I was
Roadster.
driving a chewing gum wrapper vehicle. I just didn't know.
You were, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And the
You know what's
original Roadster,
interesting?
of course, was based on that same architecture.
That is one thing I noticed. It feels like the hoods and the the fenders and stuff on my Model X seemed thin. It felt like I could dent them by punching them, and I guess that's because they were thin.
Yeah, if you tap on them, they'll feel like they're thinner, but they're typically actually thicker than steel panels.
Oh.
Because aluminum itself, at the same thickness, aluminum is not as strong as steel. But you can get the same strength by using a thicker gauge of aluminum, and it'll still be lighter. So it can still be about 30% lighter than a comparable steel part. And so,
and of course, weight's huge with electric vehicles.
It's really important with electric vehicles
weight and
because batteries are heavy.
Yeah,
and the more mass you have to move, the more energy it takes to move that. So it's going to affect your range and your performance. And as a prime example, we talked recently about the Hummer EV, and the battery pack in the Hummer EV weighs 2,932 pounds.
It's more than a Honda,
which is about the same as the Honda Civic that's parked in my garage, and about half again as much as my Miata. So using aluminum is great. I mean, aluminum is a little more expensive to use than steel, but you make up for it in other ways by reducing the mass. You can make the vehicle more efficient. Aluminum is also very easily recyclable. Steel is easily recyclable as well, but it's really easy to take the scrap. When you're machining it and cutting off parts, taking all the scrap parts, melt them back down again, make more parts out of it. So you have very little waste with aluminum. And so this Polestar O2 concept, like the upcoming Polestar 5, uses a bonded aluminum chassis that should be really, really strong, very lightweight, and should help the performance compared to building the same thing out of steel or some other material.
Is this the one behind you? Is the one with the drone in the back?
This is the one with the drone in the back. So the production version, if they build it, probably won't have a drone in the back. But this one has a drone that you can pop out, and it'll follow along. It's paired to the car.
It's the first car with a selfie cam, and I think it's very appropriate for this modern world.
Absolutely.
See me driving
around.
What
could possibly go wrong?
Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher, Wheel Bearings. Media is his podcast, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, and always a pleasure to have you on. And I'm glad you were able to drive your rag top around town because it's warming up. Spring has sprung. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Okay, let me put the clock in the window, and it is all yours, my friend. Assuming you would like to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. Mike Heiss asked about carbon fiber. He said that he had a BMW i3, and this also applies to the i8, both of which are now discontinued. They both had carbon fiber structures, and there are other very high performance vehicles that also use carbon fiber because it's very lightweight, lighter even than aluminum, stronger than steel, but it's also very expensive. And he said that in the i3 it worked great when it got hit, but the repair cost to fix it where it fractured between the carbon and aluminum meant that it was totaled. And this is a challenge. One of the things that manufacturers are trying to do is use mixed materials, because different materials have different properties, and so what they try to do is they're using the materials that give them the best blend of properties at each part of the vehicle. So where they need real structural integrity, like for the passenger compartment, to keep from anything intruding on the passenger compartment when you get into a crash, they want something really strong. BMW decided to try carbon fiber on the i3 and the i8, and that worked really well. Others use ultra high strength steels in certain areas, and then they'll use lower strength steels or other materials in areas where they want it to actually be able to collapse, to absorb some of the energy of a crash. So for things like frame rails at the front and rear of the vehicle, where you actually want the material to compress and take up some of that energy, so it's not all transferred into the passenger compartment, they'll use milder steels. The problem is joining different materials. That's always a challenge. And in the case of the BMWs, it was a challenge, because obviously they couldn't make the whole thing out of carbon fiber. They had metal structures where the suspension was attached, and if the carbon fiber fractures, then repairing that and joining those different parts together can be a real challenge. It can be very problematic. Another problem is if you're using a mix of steel and aluminum. Because one of the challenges you have is if you ever take two different metals, take steel and aluminum, or steel and copper, or copper and aluminum, and you just put them together, just side by side, and just let it sit so they're touching, you'll get something called galvanic corrosion. So you'll actually get corrosion between those parts. And so one of the things they have to do is when they're joining dissimilar metals, they have to actually put an insulator in between them so they're not in physical contact. Acura on the NSX, one of the things that they did is they actually used the adhesives for joining some different components, and they would have the bead of adhesive between an aluminum part and a steel part, joining those two together, but it also prevented the aluminum and steel from touching each other, so they didn't get that corrosion there. So there's some very creative solutions that they're coming up with, but I'll talk about that some more in the next segment.
Thank you, Mr. Sam Abuelsamid. You want to stick around for the top of the hour? It's good.
Sure thing.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Ooh. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Mark's on the line from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Leo. It's good to talk to you again, my friend.
Nice to hear from you.
Hey, I just have a very simple question, and I'm sure you'll be able to answer it very easily, but if not, Sam's going to be around, so he might help.
Sam's right here. He's sitting, he's just over my shoulder. So go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Well, ICE vehicles are so mature these days, and EVs are starting their maturation climb up the scale.
Yes.
But they're looking pretty good right now.
ICE is internal combustion engines. EVs are short for battery electric vehicles, or BEVs. So go ahead with your question. I just wanted to define terms so people know what we're talking about here.
I understand completely. Yeah. What's the point of a hybrid anymore?
Oh, that's a good question. So hybrids have little tiny gasoline engines in there and batteries. There's plug-in hybrids that run off the battery, and then there's hybrids that kind of switch back and forth between the ICE and the EV portion. I'm going to say, because there are people, still quite a few of them, who have range anxiety. They're afraid they're going to run out of juice before they find a charger. And so it makes them feel a little better to have a little tiny gas tank, a little tiny gas engine, so they know they can keep going. Sam, you agree? You think that's the main?
Yeah, and it's for different use cases. There's no silver bullet solution yet for that meets everybody's needs. And, for some people, as you say, whether they may have range anxiety or depending on where you live, what type of vehicle you need, a hybrid might be a better solution for you right now than a battery electric vehicle. Certainly hybrids have become a lot more affordable over the years. Battery electric vehicles are still more expensive, but about the cheapest EV you can buy right now, is going to cost you at a minimum about $30,000 before
Because you need bigger batteries.
You need bigger batteries.
Yeah,
Batteries are still expensive. Whereas, with a hybrid, the Ford Maverick is an example that launched last fall. It's their compact pickup truck. It's available. It's the standard powertrain, and there's a hybrid powertrain. It gets 40 miles per gallon, and it starts at $20,000. So it's a very affordable vehicle. So hybrids might be a better solution, and especially if you live somewhere rural where charging might be a problem, then a hybrid might be a better answer for you right now.
Yeah. It's, gas prices. What's gas like, Mark, where you are now?
They say it's going to be over $4 a gallon soon, right? Sam, is that what you're hearing about Michigan? Because I'm in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, most likely. I would expect
get ready for this.
Next week or two, we'll probably hit $4
here in California. It's $5.99 for premium, and there are places in LA it's $6.99. So get ready for $7 gas, and I think that's going to help. My wife and I are driving by the gas stations. It's at $5.99 a gallon, and we're going, "Whoo, let's go home and charge."
She's probably happy that the Mini got fixed and she was able to keep that
the Mini
instead of going back to a gas car.
Yeah.
Leo, you had that comment about range anxiety. Is there one good source for finding out exactly where all the chargers are in the country?
Yes, there is. If you go, the Department of Energy actually has a website called the Alternative Fuels Data Center. It's at afdc.energy or .doe.gov, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah.
.gov.
No.
And what you can do on there, let's see.
That's all right.
What you can do on there is you can search. Let's see. Here it is, afdc.energy.gov. Yeah, there we go. And there's a tab at the top. You can locate stations, and if you click on that, you can filter. You can go into filters, and you can select if you're looking for for electric charging stations. Tap on fuel, select electric. You can also find biodiesel, compressed CNG, compressed natural gas, ethanol, hydrogen, etc. But if you click on fuel and select electric, you can then find a map of all of the public charging stations across actually Canada and the U.S.
But all the electric vehicles I've driven have in their nav systems that information as well. How up to date it is, I don't know. But I think in most cases, because they're getting it from the internet, it's up to date.
Yeah, it tends to be pretty up to date. And also Google Maps also has EV charging information. I think
so. When we're driving,
also starting to put that.
When we're driving, my car will say, "Hey, you're gonna if you put in where you're going, they say you're gonna have to stop, and here's some places you can stop, and here's how long it's going to take you to charge." That's the biggest. Because there are so many charging stations coming in now, thanks to Electrify America, thanks to the federal government, that's becoming less of a problem. The biggest issue is how long it takes to charge. It's not like a gas station. You whip in, 5 minutes later, you're ready to go. You've got to spend time.
That's becoming less of a problem now. We're getting higher power charging stations and vehicles, EVs that support faster charging rates. Teslas will charge it up to 250 kilowatts now, at least until they get to a 50% charge, and then they taper off.
Yeah.
The new Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 will charge at 232 kilowatts, so you can get from 10 to 80% charge in 18 minutes. So you can put a lot of energy into a vehicle pretty quickly now.
Yeah. And in case you're wondering, gas in the UK is about, according to the chat room, $9 a gallon. So I guess I won't feel so bad about our $6 a gallon. A friend's son, Mike Elgin's son, has a Toyota Mirai, which is their hydrogen vehicle. Now, talk about range anxiety. He's lucky because he lives around the corner from a hydrogen filling station. But, he can't drive up here because there's nowhere to fill up.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a hydrogen station in
Napa or somewhere, or Marin.
No,
okay.
in Marin, just off the 101.
Yeah.
I forget.
That's one though. Before you go somewhere, you really check to see where am I going to get more hydrogen. I think that may be an alternative fuel that doesn't have much of a future. I'm just saying.
Yeah. There's 53 hydrogen stations available right now
in the country. 53.
Yeah.
Okay. How many electric chargers.
There are 53,000 charging station locations with 130,000 charging points.
So there's 1,000 times more electric chargers than our hydrogen chargers. And that number is going up all the time. There is that issue. If you have a Tesla, you have to use a Tesla's. You could use any charger for a Tesla, but we can't use Tesla's chargers. Although Elon says he might start opening up his chargers to non-Tesla vehicles. And then, the cost of the charging can be pretty high depending on the cost of electricity. Out here in California, it's very close to the cost of gasoline if you're charging it at a remote charger. My cost at home is not. And so I fill up at home in effect. Do you have a gas vehicle, Mark, or are you thinking about, or electric vehicle rather? Are you thinking about one? Or?
No, we've still got gas vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that crossed my mind the other day. It's like, I don't understand hybrids, why people need them. But I think the answer eventually came down to the same as all answers of unanswered questions: money.
Money, honey.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, pleasure talking to you.
Tool for the right job.
Thank you for calling. It's nice when we can get a car question for the car guy. I say, I have a friend here. Sam is in the house from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Thank you, Sam. And thank you, Mark. 8888. You don't have to ask car questions when Sam's here, but it's nice if you do. 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. TechGuyLabs.com, the website. I'm a big fan of electric vehicles. I mean, there are people who say, oh, the electricity's not clean that you're using. It is in my case because we have a lot of solar panels. Or they say, the materials that you need to make these lithium-ion batteries are not good, like things like cobalt. But there was just a recent study that showed that, in fact, even with long-term, considering manufacturing, EVs are much better than gas vehicles for the environment. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, unless you're driving the Beast. If you're driving the Beast, you're gonna have to have some gas. Okay, Sam, you are on, if you wish to be, for about 9 minutes. Don't pay no attention to that clock. That's gonna shift over to 8:30, and so you have about 9 minutes left.
All right. So, to what you just mentioned about that study, that was a new study out of the University of Michigan and Ford, looking at the environmental impact of EVs, and it provided roughly the same results we've seen from a number of earlier studies. That it does take more energy to manufacture an EV, primarily because of the battery, but it uses so much less energy over its lifespan that when you look at the total life cycle, the so-called cradle to grave energy use and emissions, it's significantly less. The only time when it is slightly more still is if you're using exclusively coal power for the electricity.
Right.
But any other source of electricity, if it's natural gas or hydro or any of the other renewable sources, then you're going to use significantly less energy over the life of the vehicle. And that's actually only going to get better as we get more EVs on the road and those EVs reach end of life and we start recycling those batteries. Battery recycling is an area that's going to grow substantially over the next decade. We haven't done much of it up till now because there simply haven't been enough batteries to make it viable, to make it economically useful. But earlier this week, Stellantis had an investor day, and one of the things their CEO, Carlos Tavares, talked about was previously, last year they announced that Stellantis was going to build 200 battery production facilities with a capacity of 260 gigawatt hours a year. They've now bumped that up to 400 gigawatt hours a year by 2030 because the expectation is they're going to need so many more batteries, so many more EVs that in order to support all of that, you're going to need a lot more of the key active materials, the nickel, cobalt, manganese, the lithium. And obviously you can extract that from the ground, but it's a lot better if you can reuse a lot of those materials. And even a battery that's reached the end of life where it still doesn't have it doesn't have enough capacity to be useful in a vehicle, it still has those materials can still be extracted from it and fed back into the production process and make new batteries that are just as good as the ones made from the virgin materials. So you're going to see a huge growth in recycling over the next 5 to 10 years as we start to get more volume of batteries available to recycle. One of the companies leading in that space is a company called Redwood Materials, which was founded, and their CEO is J.B. Straubel, who was the former CTO of Tesla. And there's a number of other companies like Li-Cycle and manufacturers are also doing this. So Volkswagen has a pilot recycling facility in Germany already where they're doing this stuff. So you're going to see a lot of those materials recycled there. Getting on to some of the other topics that people are asking about here in the chat. Let's see. Buzzy had he said he got a warning light on the dash stating that brake fluid when braking. Pedals spongy. What are some possible causes? Just add brake fluid to the reservoir. That could be it, but if your pedal is feeling spongy, the reason why your brake pedal would get spongy is because you have air in the lines. Now, it's possible your fluid level is dropped a bit. If you've got a leak somewhere in the brake line or one of the connections at the master cylinder or at the brakes or somewhere in the brake line, if air is getting in there and fluid is getting out, you could be losing fluid. So just filling it up is not enough. I mean, you should definitely fill it up, make sure your reservoir is topped up. But I would also take a look, maybe take it in somewhere and have them check it out and look for leaks in your brake lines. Because if you're losing fluid, it's got to be going somewhere. It's not going to get consumed. It's leaking out somewhere, and air is getting in, and that sponginess is from having air in the brake lines. So fill it up, but then also take it in and get the brakes checked and get them bled. Maybe just something's loose, something's come loose. And so you want to get everything tightened up, bleed the brakes, get all the air out of the brake lines, and then hopefully your pedals should be back to normal after that.
Starting to sound like click and clack. It's time for the car, guys. Salmon, bull salmon.
Well, I worked for many years as an engineer.
You got to bleach your
systems.
lines. That's clearly the problem. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I did that for many years as an engineer, and also, even before college, working in auto shop in high school.
I'm not complaining.
So,
we should do half so well as click and clack.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Extrusions are used in HV electric cables as well. Yep, that's true. So the high voltage cables in EVs and hybrids and plug-in hybrids. So these are the big orange cables that you see. Those are the ones carrying the high voltage, high current in your vehicle. It could be anywhere from 400 to 800 volts or more. Those copper cables are often made from extrusions. Let's see, Google Maps. Yeah, referred to Google Maps as one of the sources for chargers. So most EVs, if they have a built-in nav, they will have the point of interest database that has all the charger locations in there, and especially on newer ones, in most cases, if you put in your destination, they will actually look at what is your current state of charge. In some cases, like with Hyundai, for example, Hyundai and Kia, they've taken a whole bunch of factors, and Ford does this as well. They take in a bunch of factors. So they look at your destination, but they also look at the terrain to where your destination is. So if you're driving Petaluma to Tahoe, you're going uphill, and so your range is going to be less. They look at weather information, and they factor all of that in to try to give you a more accurate range estimation. And if you don't have enough charge to get to your destination, they can automatically show you, okay, here are chargers along your destination. Here's some recommended places to stop. Tesla does this as well. Most EV manufacturers are moving in this direction to try to minimize the impact. And what they'll try to do is try to plot out here's where you should stop so that you can get the quickest charges and get to your final destination in the shortest time. So it may actually end up, you may have more than one stop, along the way, but they're doing it in such a they're timing it in such a way so that you're getting shorter. You're charging at when your battery state of charge is at lower state of charge when it can actually charge faster. As you get up to 80% charge, your battery can't absorb energy as fast, and so instead of having you sit there and wait until you get to 100% charge, it'll tell you, okay, when you get to 75% charge at this station, then continue on your journey and stop again at this station, and your overall trip length will be shorter. Pluto 64 says, "Will we see a hybrid Miata anytime soon?" Yeah, I think we'll see some sort of electrification added to the Miata, probably in the next generation model, which is probably going to be out in, I would say, probably the next 3 years or so, probably by about 2025. Likely a hybrid, and possibly also towards the end of the decade, we'll probably also see a battery electric Miata as well. Let's see. Mike Heiss says, it wasn't the carbon that fractured, it was the joint that was the problem. Yep. That's usually where it is trying to join those dissimilar materials. And you'd be surprised, the cost of some of these repairs, even though it might seem like a relatively trivial problem, sometimes the cost of the repairs is more than the residual value of the car is worth. And an insurance company will just say, we'll total it and not even bother to fix it. Although I think that's probably changing now because used car prices are so high, because there's so little inventory, that insurance companies are probably taking, more often than not, fixing vehicles instead of totaling them now.
That's good. I've had several vehicles totaled for minor little fender benders, and it's nice if you could fix it.
Yeah,
I agree. Thank you, Sam. Have a wonderful week.
I'll talk to you next week, Leo.
Enjoy your ragtop. Take care.
I will do that. All right.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, serious stuff like cyber warfare, sillier stuff like the latest video games. 8888 Ask Leo. Anything you want to talk about. If it's got a chip in it, if it's tech, I like to talk about it. May not be able to help. I'll do my best. Just remember, you're not just asking me. I am merely the tip of the pyramid here. We've got the Team Tech Guy in our chat room at irc.twit.tv and our Discord chat for our Club Twit members. We've got 500,000, 1 million listeners who can call in. So, this is like a giant user group where we're all here to help one another. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Trevor on the line from Burnaby, Canada. Hello, Trevor.
You're listening to Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Trevor, are you auditioning? You just had to listen to 8 minutes of and I think it's Heather Hammond's voice telling you what satellite channel we're on. That's for of course, all the radio stations up and down the network who are logged in. That's so their engineers don't have to worry that they're missing anything. That's why we don't change that music, by the way, Trevor, so they go, oh, that same junky music we've been hearing for the last 10 years. We must be in a break. I've talked to Professor Laura about changing it, but so what can I do to help you, Trevor?
Can you hear me? I'm talking to the PR40.
Oh, nice.
To my Scarlett, to my Mac.
You're actually not. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not. You're talking through your Mac's microphone. So that's one problem right now.
Because it says FaceTime has a selected too.
So here's how we test that, and this happens all the time with our hosts.
Using FaceTime.
Yeah. So I'm tapping my microphone right now. Tap your microphone. Yeah. Tap your laptop's camera microphone. Because that's where I could.
My iMac.
Yeah, or your iMac. See, I could tell. Because you're not on mic, you're off mic. You're distant from the mic. So it has to be, and this is something that comes up a lot when you're using other inputs for your audio or camera too. with audio, you have to change it in the max sound settings as well as FaceTime. Or set... Yeah, well, get right up next to your microphone. Get up right next to your microphone. Let me hear.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're still off mic. But that's all right. I hear you well enough. What can I do for you?
Okay. I got all this because I'm disabled. I've been locked in a care facility for 2 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. That stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why don't I go on the air every day and talk about disabilities, get people out of their shell and say,
great idea. Great idea. Yeah.
There's more. You're not the only one who has that disability.
Right.
And then turn it into a call-in show, and that's the question.
So here's the advantage. The call-in's a little more difficult, but here's the thing. I would tell anybody. Everybody has a unique point of view, right, on life. You see it through your eyes. And that's what's so exciting about YouTube, about podcasting, before even blogging. The internet democratizes media. Until the internet came along, if you wanted to do a show about your disability, you would have to go to some, and this is how I started, go to a radio station, pound the pavement, and pound on doors saying, I'd like to do a show, And there's a pretty big gate that the gatekeepers are keeping locked tight, and you have to get in. Now anybody can do it. And if you're doing something that's of interest, you may not reach 1 million people, but you don't care about that, Trevor. You want to reach people who would be interested in what you have to say. For instance, other people sharing your disability. So, or even just people who are interested in your life. So the call-in thing is hard.
Yeah, I looked it up online, and I think, was it call-in show?
There's TalkShoe, and we used TalkShoe for a long time. I think TalkShoe is actually
phone line, so I can have a screener.
Yeah. TalkShoe, you don't really get the screener. In fact, when we did, Amber MacArthur and I did a show Inside the Net on TalkShoe.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that?
I was actually on. I actually called in, remember?
Yeah, and we would just have to say, okay, and the thing is, it's a podcast, so you can edit it, or you can just take your chances. There's no FCC. And it's easy enough to say, somebody calls in and say, caller, you're on the air. And he says, ba-ba booey. You can hang up on him immediately. So it's not a big deal. And it's kind of genuine. It's kind of real, unlike talk radio where we have a screener and all that. I don't think you need a screener unless you really start getting this, trolled by people who keep calling and annoying you. Then
I do want to do it by phone because I need to make it as easy as possible for these people.
So the way TalkShoe works, which is great, you're on the internet. So you're using their software. You don't need a phone line or anything. You just need a laptop connected to the internet. But you can give out a phone number. At least I haven't used it recently, but that was the whole idea, was you could use a regular phone to call in. And you're right. That's what you want to make it easy for your callers to participate. So TalkShoe, not show, SHOE.com. Take a look at that. I bet you there are other ways to do it. But, that is a great idea, because I think it makes the show even more interesting if you can take callers. There's another way to do it that might even be better. And I'm going to point you in this direction as well. Instead of taking live callers, you can create a podcast that people can leave a message easily for you that you can then respond to. This is a tool I think is the best podcasting tool out there. It's Anchor FM. Do you know about Anchor? ANCHOR.FM. Spotify bought them for an undisclosed amount, but I think it was millions.
But I really want to interact.
Yeah, so that's where TalkShoe is going to work nicely for you. Anchor's neat. In fact, I played with Anchor doing a podcast some years ago, and I've kind of keep it around because people can leave you a message. They can, using the Anchor app, they can say, well, Leo, I think you're wrong, blah, 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 and then you can easily edit that if you want and drop it into your podcast. You can add sound effects. You can add music. And the best thing about this, you can record. The problem with doing a talk show is you have to do it exactly the same. Notice this radio show. It's always the same, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern. That's when we're live, Saturday and Sunday. And you're going to get calls during that time. That's the only time you can do it, and you have to do it consistently. Now, you probably won't do 3 hours, Trevor, but you're going to have to say, I'm going to be on the air at noon every day, Eastern time. So if you want, because people have to call in when you're on, and that puts a burden on you and them to do it at that time. So that's the end. But the end result, the benefit of it is it's real interactivity, like you and I were talking. Anchor doesn't have that. You can record bits of your podcast at your leisure. You have an idea, you sit up, you go, hey, and you can do it on your phone. Phone quality is actually as good. And if you wanted to use your PR40, I guess you could. He bought a professional grade mic, the same one we use on my podcast network. But you can just do it on the phone, saying, here's a thought I just had, and record it. You don't have to publish it right away. It's stored by Anchor. You can then assemble those little pieces. You could put interlude music in between it. And the most interesting thing, because it's Spotify, is you can put ads in it. Now, I don't think you'll make a lot of money unless you get a lot of listeners, but there is the potential to monetize it, which I think is cool. And Spotify really is, much to my dismay, I'm talking about a Spotify product here, but they are basically buying up the podcast universe. At some point, independent podcast networks like mine are going to go away, because between iHeart, the company that owns this and does more podcasts than anybody, Spotify, number 2, Amazon coming on strong, and Apple, they're going to own all the podcasts, and more importantly, they're going to get all the advertising. So there won't be really a lot of room to make money if you're not on those platforms. The good news is Spotify makes it very easy to be on their platform. The other thing I like about Anchor that is also a great reason to recommend it, you don't have to fiddle around with making it a podcast. It is a podcast, and it shows up on Apple's podcasts. It shows up on Spotify. It shows up everywhere. It is a standard podcast that can be subscribed to on every platform. Now, that's for now. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Spotify says, oh, no, it only works with Spotify. Actually, maybe I would be surprised, because one of the benefits they get of letting people do their own thing is they'll get all the information, they get all the statistics, and then they can cherry pick. If somebody makes a show, let's say, Trevor, your show takes off and you've got 100,000 listeners, Spotify can come along to you and say, hey, you're doing a good job. We'd like to bring you inside, which has worked very well for some people. Joe Rogan, $200 million over 4 years. Call Her Daddy. What was it? It was $20 million for 3 years. There's money in them there podcasts. Someday I'll figure out how to do that. So Anchor.fm, I think the easiest way, if you wanted to, one of the nice things is if you don't know yet, if you want to do this on a long term, you've already invested a lot of money, so you're pretty committed. But for anybody listening who just wants to try this, I love it, because I do think that this is the democratization of radio, of audio content. Anybody can do it. It's easy. And it's free, by the way. Did I mention that? It's free, and it has a lot of tools to make it pretty simple to do. So TalkShoe, if you really want to take live calls, remember, you're going to have to do it at the same time every week. Anchor.fm if you want to make it easy. Hey, good luck, Trevor. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. If you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion, you want to talk high tech, you want to help me want me to help you get your microphone set up, give me a ring. We'll talk. Yeah, I think you should do it, Mac, right? Totally think you should do it. Oh, I haven't seen Call in Studio. Let me look at that, Mac, right? Interesting. Yeah, so you can use Zoom. And you could have somebody help you with call screening. That's nice. You get a toll-free number. Wow, this is great. This is better than our system. Up to 35 callers. This is great. Screen calls by a human. You provide the human, or use auto screen. Okay. And then let's see. All calls are 3 cents a minute. So for toll-free, we're 6 cents a minute. Canadian phone numbers are $9 a month. Toll-free numbers are $12 a month. And then, so that gives you the, is that the only cost? Yeah, this seems good. Maximum cost per hour with one call screener, 5 callers, which is about what we do. 420 minutes used per hour is $12.60. Not expensive. It's $12.60 an hour versus what it costs us, which is about $1,000 an hour. But we made the mistake of doing video. That's... This is actually good for me to know about. If I ever wanted to fire Dr. Laura and Professor Laura and Kim, I could just do this. I bet you cost more than $12.60 an hour. Not much more, but you know. Oh, I'll fix that, Leo.am. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, it's just a referral. And I'm going to have that go to my Lottle Fund. So my idea of this Lottle Fund is to use Anchor FM. But, you know, if I could take calls, I guess I could. That's interesting. Call-in studio pricing. That looks cool, Mac, right? Yeah, Phoenix Warp. It's, you know, that's rent, electricity, staff. There's 2, full-time staffers on duty whenever we're working online. That's a whole continuity department. There's a lot of expenses to this. So that's why we have to, work so hard to sell ads. And if at some point Spotify just takes all the oxygen out of the air, which they might, it's not just Spotify. So Spotify is buying up all of the back end, everything, but iHeart is even bigger. They, I'm sure, have their own way of doing all those metrics. Apple and Google and Amazon seem like they're interested in that business. So if if those big 5 own it, it's not going to be a lot of room for Twit as an independent entity. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We're talking high tech. On the line, Neil from Santa Monica, California. Hi, Neil.
Oh, yes. Hi, how you doing? I love your show. I like to listen to it every week to remind myself how illiterate I am.
I thought you were going to say how horrible Windows is, but okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Well, either way, I have a PC, yes. But anyway, I'm having problems with NFTs, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm author of the book, The Conscious Planet. I'm journalist for JetSettingMagazine.com.
Oh, neat.
And I'm a nationally published fine artist. Okay?
Awesome.
Now, I have created a series of NFTs. However, I'm having so many problems trying to have them published. I joined Crypto.com, and when I joined Crypto.com, I got through, and I got to the point, I'm registered in, and I got to the point where it says create. And then I assumed that all I do is cut and paste a JPEG or a file, either from my iPhone.
It's much more complicated than that.
Okay.
I would suggest going to OpenSea, OPENSEA.
Okay, OPENSEA.
OpenSea is the number one place, OpenSea.io, the number one place for creating NFTs.
Okay.
Almost all NFTs go through OpenSea. So, yeah, I would start with them, and I think it's a little easier to follow the steps. What you're going to have to do when you create an NFT is you actually put it on the blockchain, and you don't put the image on the blockchain. you put the URL to the image on the blockchain. And so it's kind of a complicated idea. And so if you want to create an NFT, I would suggest doing it through OpenSea. And it's a little bit more, the step-by-step is a little bit more straightforward.
Okay.
However, before we go much further, you wrote a book called The Conscious Planet.
Well, let me explain that. Let me explain that. Yes, I illustrated the cover of the book.
The book, that leopard on the cover is gorgeous, Neil. It's beautiful. You're a great, talented artist. But let me just ask you: is part of your vision of sustainability in energy use? Because one of the problems with NFTs, it's the same problem with all cryptocurrencies, is they are vastly energy inefficient. Huge amounts of energy have to be used.
I've heard that, but I heard that through the advancement of technology that it will take less energy.
Hasn't happened yet. All the Bitcoin, look, I have a very skeptical take on NFTs and crypto. So just so you know ahead of time, my attitude towards this is that the people promoting this are the ones who are going to make the money on this. For instance, one of the first things you're going to experience when creating the NFT is something called gas fees, which is the money that goes to the creators of the NFT and the miners who are going to create the proof of work that puts you on the blockchain. And all of that money they're going to pocket, and I can almost promise you, as dollars. And you may make money on your NFT, but most of the time, the people who buy NFTs buy it as speculative. There's two reasons somebody might buy Neil's NFT, because they love your art and they want to support you. If you want to do that, create a Patreon. Just say, give me money.
What is it, a Patreon?
Patreon is a place a lot of creators go to say, hey, you like my work? Donate, and I will give you access to special editions or whatever, or sell your work. And NFT is primarily about speculation. So there's two reasons people will buy your NFT. One, to help you, but it's not a great way because of gas fees. A lot of the money they spend does not go in your pocket. It goes in the pocket of OpenSea and the people who are behind this. If you go to Patreon, they take a 4 or 5%, but you're still going to get most of it. The other thing, the other people who buy our NFTs, the vast majority are not doing it to support you, but because they're speculators. They think that it's going to be worth more down the road. Now, that can benefit you because when you create an NFT, you can build in, and you will, I want 20% or some percentage of all future sales. So as it goes up, you will make money on it. So in a way, you become one of the speculators. And in my opinion, most NFT creators are pure speculators. Look at the Bored Apes. That's not great art.
I've seen that.
That's somebody who wants to make money. And like any pyramid scheme, the requirement is more suckers. You don't ever want to be the last person to buy an NFT because that's money at the door. You want to be the second to last person. Right? You want to be the guy who sold it on at a greatly inflated value. So my opinion of all of this is it is a con. It's a pyramid scheme. Now, if you want to do it through OpenSea. We have a hands-on photography episode. Ant Pruitt did an NFT, does a couple. He's a great photographer. He explained it. Episode 103. And I'll put a link in the show notes to that. twit.tv/hop. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And I know I'm still online with you, Neil. So, by the way, very impressed by your art. Beautiful. I'm looking at your website.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Trine Day Publishing is coming out with my new edition.
Good.
In about 4 or 5 months, and I illustrated the cover. So I thought I'd make an NFT from the cover.
You know what? It's a good exercise. You'll understand the whole thing better. OpenSea makes it a lot easier. Again, twit.tv/HOP103. And Ant walks you.
Say that again, sir. I'm sorry. Say that
Twit.tv, that's my podcast site. HO/HOP, which is hands-on photography. HOP.
HOP.
Hands-on photography. And episode 103 is NFT art. And Ant will it's basically getting started with NFTs. He'll walk you through it.
Well, say bless you so much. I really appreciate all your help.
My pleasure, and bless you. I like what you're doing with theconsciousplanet.org. That's great.
So it's all about vegan.
Yeah. Well, that's another, sustainability also is energy usage, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so
but being vegan is the most powerful statement towards sustainability, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. If I could do it, I would.
It's easier now than ever before.
That's true.
I've been doing it for 40 years. Do you have a company where I could get consultation though?
No. This is it.
No?
You're getting the consultation right here. I don't have time to do anything else.
Okay.
But I do wish you luck, and believe me, if I could be vegan, I would. I'm going to work on it. I'm working. My wife and I both want to do that. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you could give me a shout out sometime about doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
ConsciousPlanet.org. Thank you.
We'll put a link in the show notes. You just got a nice big plug on the radio.
Bless you so much.
Thank you, Neil. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. On average, a creation of an Ethereum-based NFT, which stands for non-fungible token. If you've not heard the term, bless you. It's all over the place, and it's highly promoted, as is cryptocurrency. It's highly promoted by people who stand to make money from it, in my opinion. And of course, the crypto bros hate it when I say that, because they have this vision. Well, some of them have this vision of a brand spanking new world where, I don't know what, something blockchain. There's also a much larger group of them who say, but wait, I haven't sold my NFT yet. Can you not knock them until I make some more money, please? I'll put a link in the show notes. According to Memo Atkin, who is a computational artist and engineer, he compiled data from 8,000 NFT transactions. On average, creating one NFT uses 140 kilowatt hours just to create it. To make a bid, 41 kilowatt hours of energy. To cancel a bid, 12 kilowatt hours. The sale is 87 kilowatt hours. A transfer of ownership, 52 kilowatt hours. Why, you say, is it using energy? Well, it's kind of a long and complicated story that has to do with how cryptocurrency is mined. I don't know how deep I should go into this. If you really care, it's a fascinating subject. Read up on Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto. They're all based on the same idea, which is essentially we're going to create currency, but instead of taking gold bars, stamping them into coins, or printing on pieces of paper, we're going to create digital currency. But to prevent inflation, you have to have some burden. You can't just say, well, here's 1,000 Bitcoin. You have to create them. So the burden in the case of cryptocurrency is solving hard math problems. And it has to be done computationally with a computer. And very cleverly, when Nakamoto created Bitcoin, he or they or she decided that it should get harder and harder as you proceeded. So initially it was very easy to create Bitcoin. In fact, my friend Steve Gibson, who does our security podcast, when he was first researching Bitcoin, he said, I should make a Bitcoin miner. That's what they call it, a miner. I should dedicate a computer to mining Bitcoin. And of course, what's that computer doing? It's not wielding a pick in a gold mine. The mining is solving these hard math problems. So he set it up overnight, early days, 50 Bitcoin. Cha-ching! Now, at the time, 50 Bitcoin was worth maybe $1. It wasn't worth a lot. So he didn't pay much attention to it. He probably thinks today he should have. He erased that hard drive later. Had he saved it, those 50 Bitcoin today would be worth more than $2 million. Overnight, just setting up a computer. But that was in the early days. As more Bitcoin was mined, it gets harder and harder to do. And in fact, there's eventually you're going to mine the total maximum number of Bitcoin and no more can be created. Again, all of this is to avoid inflation, to kind of give Bitcoin a value. So at this point, it's so hard to mine Bitcoin that unless you live somewhere where energy is very, very cheap or free, it's going to cost you more than you make. It's going to cost you more than you make. So that's why for a long time, many or most, if not all of Bitcoin was being mined in China by miners who had massive operations, lots of computers, lots of graphics cards, because those mine faster, near hydroelectric dams where energy was cheap or free. Doesn't make sense if you were to set up a Bitcoin miner in your basement, you would spend more on electricity and cooling too, because the computer generates a lot of heat. In fact, there's a company in Scandinavia that sells Bitcoin miner heaters that you use to heat your home and mine Bitcoin. It's very, so bottom line, all of these cryptocurrencies currently are very energy intensive. They use a lot of energy for nothing. You know, if you're using energy to get to work, that's one thing. If you're using energy so that you can sell somebody the idea that they own a sketch of a bored ape, no, I don't think that's a good use of the energy. People make the point, look, a lot of things use energy. You know, our banking system uses energy. Yeah, it's all computerized. It uses a lot of energy. But it's our banking system. Anyway, I'll put a link in the show notes to the article. You can decide if you think it makes sense or not. On we go with the show. Fletcher's on the line from Groveland, Florida. Hi, Fletcher.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I am well. How are you?
Not too bad, but first I need to congratulate you before I get to my question. You, sir, have the most amazing ability to use the nasal voice that I have ever seen in my life.
You mean are you talking about the geek voice that I use when I?
How do you do that? That is amazing.
It just comes naturally when you're a geek.
Yeah. I've been a geek for at least 40 years.
You don't sound like a geek.
You need to work get a little more nasal on there.
If I hold my nose, I can do it.
Oh, there you go.
Really doing that.
Yeah. It also helps if you kind of do a little buck teeth thing going along with it.
Oh,
it's very Jerry Lewis, is what it really is. You know.
Okay. I need to watch more older movies.
Somebody in the chat room is saying, "Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him, Fletcher."
You cannot discourage talent like that. I'm sorry.
Talent's one word.
Hey, okay, so for Christmas, my wife let me buy a nice OLED Bravia with 77-inch TV.
Oh, nice.
And she said, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to get a decent stereo sound system.
Oh, man, I like your wife more and more.
Yes,
now, by the way, she's benefiting from this, isn't she?
She absolutely is.
Yes.
She absolutely is.
Because you have a home theater system now that rivals any movie theater. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is wonderful, and I got the sound system I got was a Polk Audio surround sound.
Beautiful. Polk Audio makes very good stuff. Did you get a sound bar, or did you get a receiver and all that?
I got a sound bar.
Yeah.
I have a receiver. It's in storage. We're currently renting, so I don't want to poke holes in.
Oh yeah, if you're renting. So the last thing you want is a big old subwoofer that's going to rattle the whole building. So, yeah. No, that's a good start. And Polk does very good stuff. It's good surround. It's not going to be the, window rattling sound eventually that you will want when you get your own home and you're miles from the nearest inhabitants. But for now, a very nice thing. And it is, it's better than going to the movies.
It really kind of is. You and
Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy,
have talked about how wonderful OLED is, let alone the Sony Bravia.
My wife says it's too real. We'll sit now. By the way, one of the things, and my suggestion, you got a big screen, which is great, 77 inches. Sit close, because if you have 77 inches 20 feet away, you might as well be looking at a laptop screen. You know,
true.
and so we have a 70-inch OLED that we sit about 7 feet away from. And then, so the whole idea is to be like a movie theater. It's filling the periphery so you can just see the edges of the screen. Now it's immersive. And my wife says it's too real. Sometimes we were watching 1883 the other day. She's like, I don't want to be out in the prairie with these pioneers. It's too real. It's too real.
You know, the most amazing thing I ever have done so far with this TV is I hooked up my laptop to it, which is a gaming laptop that you recommended. Just to be silly, I played Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Now you're flying.
Really close.
Now you're flying.
I got almost motion sickness.
I got to run. Hang on for a sec, okay? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That's the only negative. It makes you seasick. It's too real. It's too real. All right, we're in the break, but you're still on. The podcast is still, the tapes are still rolling, Fletcher.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the problem I'm having is that my Polk Audio randomly makes electric popping noises, and I can't locate where it's happening. Or
Ooh.
it's happening.
So you're watching a show and you just hear like a pop.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll put Star Trek Next Generation on, and usually it happens when I'm pausing, when there's no other sound coming.
Oh, interesting.
But it'll just sit there, and all of a sudden it'll pop, 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 pop.
That's
pop,
not
pop,
good.
that sort of thing.
That's bad for speakers. Those transients like that are bad for speakers.
Yeah.
And it usually means there's electricity getting into the system. It's not interference. You know, you get that when you turn on and off your amp, right? That big pop. Yeah. That means there's electrical in the system, and that's definitely not good. So, you're not using an amp. It's coming straight out of the TV via Toslink, via optical?
I'm using eARC.
Okay. One thing to try. That Polk soundbar will also have optical, and that TV will also have optical. Get a little optical cable going from the TV to the soundbar. What that does is it isolates. So that HDMI cable that you're using, honestly, HDMI, in my opinion, is poorly made. It can be loose. And so it could be moving in the socket. That could do it. There could be static electricity. There's also, I would get rid of the, for the audio anyway, I would get rid of the HDMI. At least try that.
Okay, so I can plug in the optical and still have the...
It's the best way to do it. It's the best way to do it. You HDMI for video, optical for audio. They'll be in sync. That's not going to be a problem. It's digital. It's same. It's really, the soundbar's getting the digits. It's just getting it through a different channel. And optical does not have any electrical issues, as one might imagine. It's just light. So that's the first thing to try. And that may well get rid of all of the issues. If it does, then you know it was the eARC that was causing the problem.
So need I be concerned? You mentioned electricity getting in. Need I be concerned if that's something else?
Well, if it doesnesn't fix it, yes.
Nefarious cause?
If it doesn't fix it, yes. It could be the soundbar itself might have a problem with its capacitors, discharging. There's all sorts of things that could be going on.
Okay.
Try the optical. You can go to Amazon. They're $5 to get. Make sure you get the right end points. Usually it's like the Toslink on the TV side, and I think Toslink on the soundbar side. But make sure you get the right connector. Sometimes it looks like a headphone jack, but it's got a little light coming out the end of it.
Sarah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. The one other thing to do, and you should do this anyway,
I always recommend it, is to put the whole thing on a good UPS or power conditioner. Because if you...
A line conditioner?
Yeah, a line conditioner. Because that's the other way it can be coming in through the grid. So maybe the refrigerator's turning on and you're getting a spike.
Oh, that could very well be. Okay, I will definitely do that as well.
Yeah, it's always good. You spend a lot of money on that equipment. The TV is very sensitive to spikes, so you really want to protect the home theater stuff. A lot of people don't do that, and I think it's a good idea.
Okay, you, sir, are so awesome. You're awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye, Fletcher. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, 88. Why do they make Batman always talk like that? Why is that? I don't understand. Is that so people won't know it's Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne talks like that. That's it. And then Batman talks like this. And I thought, who is he? Who could it be? Who could it be? It's not as bad as Superman. I mean, come on. Clark Kent's only disguise is nerd glasses, and he does a little thing with his voice. That's his only. Come on. 88, I'm the Batman. 88, ask Leo, I'm the tech man. Kevin on the line from Missoula, Montana. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
I am great. I am great. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Just kind of looking at upgrading my smartphone. Before this, I have a Samsung Galaxy SE, 10 SE, excuse me. And before that, I had the Samsung Galaxy S5.
You sound like a Samsung guy.
I am Android and the whole works. Even my television.
I am in love with my S22 Ultra that I just got.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's what I want to talk about.
What do you want to know? Because I will tell you. I paid a pretty penny for this. Although, when you buy it, do the upgrade thing, because they'll even buy an S10.
Okay, they'll use that as a trade-in. Huh?
Yeah, I traded in a Galaxy Fold, and I got like $800 or something. So it makes a big difference if you definitely do the trade-in at the Samsung site.
Okay, I appreciate the suggestion and the recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, no, the other one is what am I going to be experiencing? Or, I'm looking at the other. Let's see here. I got it right. The information right in front of me here. The regular S22s. Samsung, like many companies, does a variety. So the 22 is this year's model. Came out in 2022. And the base model has less memory, has less storage, has a slower processor, and then it goes up from there. More cameras, more lenses, that kind of thing. So the Ultra is actually not like the other ones. There's the S22, the S22 Plus, and then there's the Ultra. The Ultra doesn't even look like the S22 Plus. It's really the Galaxy Note. Remember the Note? Yeah.
It's big, it's squared, and it has a pen. It has a stylus. So it's really for people who are willing to spend $1,400 to maximize everything. Beautiful screen, 120 hertz. Samsung does the best screens. Their cameras, even on the S22 and the S22 Plus, are very, very good. Some people, the three phones with the best cameras, the iPhone, the Google Pixel 6, and the S22. And all three companies make different choices about processing the image. Apple's probably the most natural. Well, maybe Google's the most naturalistic. Apple makes some decisions. Samsung's generally opts for popping the colors a little more. They're a little more vibrant. It's a look I like. It's not quite as natural, so some photographers say, well, that's inaccurate. That red should not be that bright. But I think Samsung does a very good job. I think the camera is spectacular. One of the things that Samsung does do better, I think, than almost anybody is the telephoto. They have such a good telephoto, you can get effectively 100 millimeter digital zoom, but 10 optical. I've been really happy. In the portrait mode, all of the features of the Samsung, I think, are very, very good. The ultra wide, the zoom. So is photography important to you? Is that one of the things you care about? No. So
no.
Don't worry about that then.
I don't even do selfies.
It's got a great selfie camera. You might want to start.
Yeah.
Then in that case, I wouldn't. If you don't need the stylus, you don't need the size. You don't need 512 or a terabyte of storage. You don't need 12 gigs of RAM. Then I think the S22 or the S22 Plus is fine.
Okay, very good. No, this phone's wearing out. I've only had it for a little over 2 years, and there's just some glitches going on with it right now. And so.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They really don't make these phones to last as long as they should. Samsung has done the right thing. The most important thing, if you ask me, with an Android phone is that you get updates. And Samsung has committed to, I think, 4 years of updates, which is really good. But you're right. These phones, after a couple of years, they don't expect anybody to keep them for more than 2 or 3 years. So they kind of start to wear out a little bit.
All right. Well, are you going to have a review on your tech?
That's a good question. I don't really do reviews. There's so many good reviewers out there. You just heard kind of my thumbnail review. Very happy with the S22 Ultra. I have no negatives. The battery life is excellent. And I would expect the same with the S22 and the 22 Plus. They're just a little smaller. The fingerprint's very good. It does have face recognition as well. That's a little less secure. All three of them offer 120 hertz screen refresh, which is really nice for smooth scrolling. I actually turned my S22 Ultra screen up to the highest resolution, 4K resolution, which is not normally recommended, but it does not impact the battery life badly. It's a very nice, bright screen. The S22 is not quite as bright. The Plus is brighter, so if you use it outside, they're all three, very similar. Since you don't care about the camera, I think they're even more similar. That's one of the big differences between the three models.
All right, very good.
Enjoy.
Well, I'm ready to make
I think you should do it. I have no hesitation. There's my review.
So would you have, let me ask you this, Leo, would you go for like a box store trade-in your phone, or would you just go strictly through Samsung?
Check. I would check them all. So I think Samsung's fairly liberal because remember you're gonna buy it direct from them. They're gonna get the most bang for the buck. So, but you can go before you buy. You can say, what am I gonna get for this phone? Remember, though, that when they get it, they may downgrade you if it's not in the same condition. So they ask you about the condition. You can also go to Swappa, which is a online place. People sell their old devices and get a quote. You can get a quote from a big box store. I would get quotes from all of them just to see who's going to give you be most generous. My experience was that Samsung was very generous with what I was offering.
All right. Thanks for the advice, Leo.
Hey, enjoy your new phone. New phone day is always a great day. People have been knocking the Pixel 6, which is Google's, current high-end phone. And honestly, maybe I just lucked out. I think the Pixel 6 Pro is very, very good as well. All three of the top phones, the iPhone 13, actually, I stayed with the iPhone 12. My wife got the 13 because she's my wife, and she loves it. But I don't see that much difference between last year's iPhone and this year's, so I didn't feel the need to upgrade. The Pixel 6 Pro is fantastic. I took it to Mexico with me in October. Got amazing low light photos. I've just started taking pictures now with the Samsung. In my opinion, the S22 Ultra, in almost every way, replaces the need to carry a fancy pro camera with you. I mean, this thing is cray cray. It has 4 cameras, a 12 megapixel super wide, 108 megapixel wide angle. Now that pixel number is deceiving because they use pixel binning. So, but it's a good sensor. Let's put it that way. It's got 2 telephoto cameras of 10 megapixels. And then it has this digital zoom, which is actually surprisingly good. The camera is doing a lot of computational stuff. That's what everybody's doing these days. Google, Apple, Samsung, they have such fast processors. They're doing a lot with the image as it comes in. And I think the zoom is kind of amazing. You'll only get 30x, which is plenty, by the way, on the 22 and the 22 Plus. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Show notes always are still at techguylabs.com. The one difference now is it doesn't take you, it doesn't have a thing on the front page of today's show. You'll see when you go to techguylabs.com all the last, say, 5 shows or something like that. And of course, there's nothing there for today's show yet. But yesterday's show is up, 1873, and this is 1874, and probably by the end of the day or early tomorrow, that will be up. The show notes take a little longer to produce. We get the audio and the video up. The show notes are links. Those go up a little bit later, and there's also which usually 48 hours later, there's also a transcript that goes up that you can search, which is very handy. And on Sunday, we put the links to all of the songs that Professor Laura plays. That takes a little bit longer, too. Making me use IRC like a teenager. Actually, I don't think the teenagers use IRC. I think us old folks use IRC. If you want to use Discord, which is what the teenagers really use, join Club Twit. Then we have a lovely Discord. I think it's one of the best places ever. This is our Discord. So this is a little more modern than IRC. More like the teenagers use. The nice thing about, oh, hello there. Hello. The Discord kind of goes crazy when they get on camera. They don't get on camera that much. I like IRC, to be honest with you, but now we got the Discord and the IRC's up on top and the Discord's down below. I wish I could get rid of that right bar. I guess I can if I just if I zoom. But then it's zoomed in more, so I don't know. I don't know if that's a good solution. Just a crumb of attention, please. Just a crumb. Just a little bit. Hello, Mr. Penguin. Looks just like my penguin that Micah gave me. Oh, it's lunchtime. Let me go get some. Please, sir, may I have some more? 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 Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number if you want to talk high tech. The website, free, available to all, techguylabs.com. For those of you who are, use the old site, you might be a little disconcerting. For cost reasons, we decided not to keep the old site running. It was running on old software, Drupal, which is a very good content management system I've used, almost 20 years now. I've been doing a Drupal site. But we had not really updated. I think we're a few generations behind. Drupal announced we are not going to do security patches for the older versions, kind of like Windows, right? And we talked to the company that runs the site for us, and they said, that'll be $250,000, please. And I said, how many? So instead of spending $250,000 to keep the Tech Guy site safe, we obviously don't want you to use an unsafe site, an insecure site. We don't want to run that. We are running another site for the podcast network, which is Twit, This Week in Tech, twit.tv. So we just took the Tech Guy site and folded it into the podcast site. It's now, that way it'll be secure and up to date. You don't have to be worried about using it, but it does look a little different. We don't have the same capabilities. So it is now one of the show pages for the podcast network. TechGuyLabs.com still goes to that show page, the Tech Guy show page. Then you'll
click the link that takes you to that particular episode, in this case, episode 1874. Don't be discombobulated by the change. The links are still there. In fact, we've added some features. We now have a auto-generated, AI-generated transcript of the show, which is actually pretty good. We do have a human actually goes through it to make sure it's not crazy and fixes up a little bit. And so there's about a 48-hour lead time. We'll put that transcript up, by Tuesday, let's say. And that has time codes in it, too. So there's audio from the show, the video from the show, and the transcript. So you can search the transcript. You can read my answer exactly as I said it, with all the ums and hems and haws. But you also see the time code, so you can jump to that part of the audio or video. And again, the links are all there. So if it's just a link you're looking for, you should be able to get those links. And that takes less than a day, I think, to get that up. TechGuideLabs.com, all of that's still free. Because it's free, I didn't want to spend $250,000 updating it. I didn't know where that money was going to come from. That's I don't have Joe Rogan money, Frank is on the line from Boston, Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Hi, Frank.
How are you, Leo?
See, I can spell. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, it's fast, too.
I think it was a song. I don't know. I learned it as a kid. What's up?
Well, a lot of the stuff that I hear you talk about as I listen to your shows is, I feel well above my head, but let me try to tell you my simple problem.
Okay.
My laptop, which is probably about 11 years old, I've upgraded things in it through the years, but it's now given me a problem where when I go to power it on, it starts to power up, and then it just immediately shuts down, and I get a flashing green and orange light. I tested the power supply. I'm getting power from that.
That's interesting. A flashing. So no, the screen doesn't come on at all.
It starts to come on, and then it'll immediately go off, and then the
off meaning like there's no power going to the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sounds like a dead battery.
Would the power supply still operate the computer without the battery?
One would think a lot of laptops, it goes through the battery. So if the battery stops functioning, having it plugged in won't help unless, and many laptops is the case, you take out the battery. And then the laptop, not all, but some laptops will say, oh, I guess I can't route through the battery. Let's just take the power direct. So if you have an older laptop where the battery has failed, and they only last a few years, that's not abnormal. They have a limited number of charge and discharge cycles, usually around 500. So once it stops taking a charge, if the laptop is routing through the battery, which almost all laptops do, that's that. Unless you can remove the battery. Is it easy to access the battery on it, Frank?
Oh, yes.
All right. So just try this. Take out the battery. Your laptop may operate. Now, obviously, it's not going to operate off power. But it'll still.
It doesn't seem to. I pulled the battery out, and it doesn't seem to.
It doesn't do that.
Okay.
No. Okay. So not all laptops will do that. And I guess who makes it?
Samsung. It's a Samsung RF711.
Okay. So I guess let me just see if you can operate that without the battery. Because that's the first question. If that's one of the, a surprisingly large number of laptops, if you take the battery out, continue to operate even if the battery has died. But I don't know if this is one of them. You can. The first thing I would do is see if you can get a replacement. Looks like Samsung is selling them for $79, or Laptop Battery Express is for $79. I can't guarantee that it'd fix it. But how old is it?
Actually, it's 11 years old.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I know.
You got a lot of mileage out of that battery, come to think of it. Did you notice that the charge wasn't lasting as long, like you'd only get half an hour out of the thing?
It's been gradually diminishing, yes.
Yeah.
And most of the time I use it powered with the charger.
Right. But like I said, many, if not most laptops go through the battery if the battery's present. And I guess not all laptops still work without the battery present. Or it's possible that yours does, but there's another problem.
Right. That was my biggest worry.
Yeah. And you'd hate to spend $79 on a new battery and it doesn't fix it.
Right.
Honestly, 11 years old, it might be time to get a new laptop.
Well, I mentioned this to a friend of mine. He says, why are you even playing with this? He says, it's time. It's time. That brings up another question. Now, I'm kind of old-fashioned, and I noticed that a lot of the newer laptops, just, browsing through the retail stores, they don't have a lot of the older things that I'm used to.
Yeah, they don't have CD-ROMs anymore, or DVDs. Yeah, no, those are long gone. No floppy disks anymore. Nope. And in fact, a lot of them no longer have things like Ethernet jacks, which drives me nuts.
That's right.
But, they're trying to make these more compact. Not that many people run laptops, I guess, on wired networks, so they just eliminate a lot of those pieces. Saves them money, too, obviously. So,
that being said, would you have a recommendation of the type of laptop I should be looking for?
What do you prize in a laptop? What do you really? All laptops are compromises. You can't do everything for everybody with a device. So you want to choose one that compromises in a way you don't care about. So some people care about battery life more than they do about thin and light. Some people want more ports, like maybe you want an Ethernet port. So all of that. So what are the things you most value in a laptop? What are you looking for?
Well, the ports are important. 15-inch screen, 16-inch screen, ports are important.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to, probably do an external CD driver if I still.
Yeah, the good news is you can buy those for like $20. They're really cheap. They connect via the USB port, and then you're not carrying that thing around when you don't need it. And when you do need it, and like you, I'm an old timer. I bought one. I never use it. So it's one of those things where maybe I didn't really need it. Maybe it was okay, but you can easily buy one. I think. Go ahead.
Sorry. A lot of the things that I do involve music and music editing and a lot of stuff.
So you do. Yeah. So you need that. Yeah. So Dell makes business laptops like the Inspiron. That the business laptops tend to be bigger, heavier, better battery life, bigger screen, and more ports because they're not going for sexy; they're going for functional. So Dell makes the sexiest laptops today, which are the Dell XPSs, but they also make, the more prosaic business laptops. You know who else also probably still has an Ethernet port, although it may be a proprietary Ethernet port that you have a dongle for, is Lenovo. You're looking at the business laptops.
Right.
Because those are more likely to have those ports. Let me look at the Dell Latitude 3520, see if that has an Ethernet port on it. It has an HDMI port. That's crazy. I don't know why. But I guess, that's what people want. Yeah, it still has an Ethernet port. So that's an example. It's a business laptop. The Dell Latitude. And yeah, and they're not expensive, but and they're not sexy. Because you don't want a sexy laptop. You want a functional laptop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good start. Good start.
There you go.
I think that should address it. I probably shouldn't waste time with the existing one.
Probably not. I mean, you can throw money at it, and gosh, if it's not that, and at that age, it might well not be that. Then you've wasted $80 on something. It's too bad we can't just go to the battery store and say, "Can I just try it?" Another old-timey idea. Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you, Frank.
Thank you, Leo.
Have a great day. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. I love it. It's a great start. More of your calls coming up right after this. Yeah, I love the ThinkPads. But I remember that my Lenovo's stopped using standard Ethernet ports very early on. They have these like weird compressed Ethernet ports. Let me look at this X13. Hold up. X13. Snapdragon. Oh, forget about it. No, Windows on ARM, no. Yeah, Paul Thoreau was talking about this. It's kind of cool. See how it's got the camera bump and all that? But no. No. I don't think so. Not me. Nuh-uh. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Ah. So Phoenix Warp, is it all the accents you hate? Is it the adenoid voice? The other voices like that? Yeah, I wish I could have Micah every day, but Micah does have to have some days off. So he doesn't come in on Sunday, just Saturday. I'm sorry. But don't worry, he's going to be taking over for me someday. As soon as he starts shaving. One of the things I would love to be able to do, and I need a dialect coach, is, the Tennessee accent is softer and more kind of like a Southern gentleman than the Texas accent, which is more, I don't know. So they're different kinds of accents. But I do like the Tennessee accent. I think it is very cultured. But I can't really distinguish between Tennessee and Mississippi. I think Mississippi is more like this, Mississippi. It's a colorful elocution, if you know what I mean. Everybody loves the rich, pompous Yale yacht voice accent. That's my actual real voice. Lovey. You want me to talk in French? Is that it? You like the French accent, eh? Lede Mamalade, Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. We're talking about accents. And, look, I'm not doing impressions. I'm doing cartoon voices, okay? And, yeah, I understand there's certain voices you can't do anymore. I used to do it. I thought it was a very credible East Indian accent. But it's properly so deemed racist, I guess. And, is Apu on The Simpsons anymore? Probably not. So you just, I'm trying to be sensitive. But I don't think if I do Russian accent, I'm making fun of Russian people. It's just cartoon voice. It's Boris Bednov, Natasha, darling. So please don't take offense. I'm not mocking any ethnic group. It's a cartoon voices. And honestly, I can't help it. In fact, I've embarrassed myself many times if I am visiting a friend in the house in Birmingham and I start talking like that. It's not on purpose. It's just I slip into the accent. I'm one of those people who, if I lived in Britain, I would talk like that because it just gets in my mind and then it comes out of my mouth. And that's part of the problem. Is I have no filter. My wife tells me this all the time. I have no filter. All right, let's go to Downey, California. Say hello to Julie. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Leo.
Hello.
I'm hoping you can help me with a problem that I've created. I'm not sure how I did it because I did it a couple months ago, and I've been frustrated ever since. So contacts on my laptop, trying to sync them with contacts on my phone.
Yeah.
Followed some instructions, some YouTube thing I saw.
There's your mistake. No. Honestly, this happens all the time. Go on. Keep on telling me what happens.
So now I have like triple and quadruple contacts on my phone.
Not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not even the YouTube guy's fault.
It's not?
No.
Okay. How do I fix it easily?
So this is a problem with syncing. It's, if anything, it's the fault of syncing anything. So what you have is two different systems. You have your Android phone, your contacts, There, you have your contacts on your laptop. And they're trying to talk to one another. But the problem is, well, wait a minute. I have this contact, but you don't. Does that mean Julie deleted that contact on purpose? Or should I copy that contact to you? Or I have a contact for Sam, but he's got a phone number that begins with 123. You have Sam's contact, but he gives a phone number with 456. So almost invariably, what these systems do is err on the side of caution. They don't want to delete stuff that you need. That would be terrible. Better that you should have 3 Sams than no Sams, right?
Right.
So that's what happens. Synchronization often creates duplicates. And it's to protect you from accidental deletion. Unfortunately, sometimes that does happen, and that's really a nightmare. I have a good friend. I felt bad. I recommended, a synchronization backup system, and he said, "Leo, it deleted everything. It deleted everything," and I felt terrible. But that's the worst case scenario, and that even can happen. So it's not your fault. Please, I know people blame themselves for this. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. How do you fix it? Well, that's a little more complicated. What I always tell people, because this is a very common question, is, sometimes the best thing to do, which phone number you want for Sam. You know which Sam is the best. There are automated systems that delete duplications or merge them together, but you're invariably going to get mistakes. Sometimes I merge a lot of contact systems, maybe even the one on your phone, allow you to merge contacts or even will automatically merge contacts. And then you get one person with 14 phone numbers, and that's not what you want either. So the best way is to do it by hand, which I know is a lot. I mean, how many contacts do you have? Probably hundreds, right?
Right.
And that's problematic. But if you can do it once, and then the trick is make a backup. Make a backup, because then you'll have the definitive contact list. And if this happens again, you go, okay, it happened again, and you can delete all those backups and restore from the backup. So that's one solution. I will tell you one that's automated that I think is pretty good. When Marissa Mayer, she left Google, she was very famous. She was in charge of the front page on Google to become the CEO of Yahoo. They brought her in to save Yahoo, which she failed to do. After about 8 years, she quit, and Yahoo's just going down the tubes, and it wasn't her fault. Her next thing was a thing called Sunshine. Sunshine Contacts at sunshine.com. And she's trying to solve this very tough problem of what happens when you have duplicates, what happens when your contacts have multiple entries that are different. It's worth taking a look at it, sunshine.com. You can do it and then see if it gives you a good result. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. But now we're off the air, but I will continue because I haven't really helped you that much. I mean, except to say it's not your fault. This happens. It happens to everybody. Some of us just ignore it. I have 1,900 entries in my contact list, of which probably 600 are duplicates. So manually is one way. It doesn't take as long as you might think. But then back it up, save it to some place that's not being synced just in case. Or try this Sunshine. Sunshine.com. They have an app. I think it's free. It was free when I started using it. And the idea of it is exactly that. We're going to merge duplicates intelligently. And the reason I mentioned Marissa Mayer's name is she's a very high-powered tech person, and this is her thing. So, they're really trying to use AI to make something that really works for people. So, there are other contact managers you can use that say will eliminate duplicates. They work, in varying ways. I still would make a backup because what if it deletes something you really want?
Right. Okay.
Not your fault. It happens all the time to everybody.
I know. Have you gotten into the Wordle craze?
Oh, yeah. My wife and I, before we go to bed, every night we do Wordle together.
I I love it.
Isn't
That's
it great?
Coffee and Wordle. Yeah.
And the smart thing he did, now the time's on it, but the guy who created it originally, Josh Wardle, he made it for his girlfriend, you know. And he wasn't even it wasn't even public for the first few months. And they thought, well, I should put it online. And then he sold it for millions of dollars to the New York Times. Good for you, Josh.
New York Times.
Yeah.
Right. They'll start charging us soon, right?
Well, you know, I pay for the crosswords and all that stuff. But so I get it. But the thing he did, I thought that was brilliant, is he only one a day.
Yes.
You
can't get spend hours doing it.
One, that's it.
Yes. Yep. I love it.
So it's your morning ritual. It's our bedtime ritual. It's nice. There's just one. Now you can't do it anymore. You got to go to bed, or you got to get going.
Right. Yep.
I love it.
Exactly.
It's brilliant.
Okay, cool.
Hey, nice to talk to you. Thank you, Julie.
Same here. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Wordle. We have a Wordle channel on the Discord, by the way. We got channels for everything. Food, barbecue, movies, music, sci-fi. We have a Wordle channel under the games. And all that's on the Wordle channel is this. But you know, when you do a really good, oh boy, that's a terrible one. When you do a really good Wordle, you want to post it. Lisa will say, like this one, see, in three guesses. Lisa will say, oh, you got to post that. Oh, 2 guesses. Look at that. Nice job, Nate. Wait a minute. No. Oh, he's doing something else. That's Worldle. Worldle. You got to guess a country. So, yeah, we have fun. We have fun with Wordle. Wordle. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So maybe you better explain to me, Professor Laura, heartbreaker. I always wait at the end of at the half-past break. You start playing the music, and I give it 30 seconds. It's the only time I do that. I think I'm supposed to do that. Am I not?
You are.
I am.
Whatever.
So if I start talking, as I did this time, 15 seconds in, don't play, don't turn the music. Keep going to 30. I shouldn't do all our affiliates up and down. We have hundreds and hundreds of radio stations who depend on you and me not to interrupt their commercials. So, or their bottom of the hour news. So let's do it right. Let's be good radio citizens. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Jeannie is on the line from Huntington Beach, California. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi. This is for last week. There was a fellow that wanted an Epson printer.
Yes.
And I have an Epson printer I have never used.
Oh, no.
I've never used it. It's a Photo RX 580. It's not as big, I guess, as...
Oh, those are good. That's a nice one. Yeah, he wanted a wide one because he's a photographer. So he wanted that big 15 by 14 printouts.
Yeah, well, this is a smaller one, but he can have it if he wants it.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
I've never used it. It's never used.
Where'd you get it? Why do you have it?
I got it to do photos eons ago, and I've been busy doing other stuff, and it's just sat here. And if someone can put it to use, I'd be happy.
Call your nearby elementary or high school.
Okay.
They will embrace it with open arms.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if the high school has a photo class. Uh-huh. Because that's a good photo printer.
Yeah, that's why I got it, but I'm not doing what I thought I was going to do. So, and it's just sat here, and when I've offered it to people because it's not Wi-Fi, they go, no.
Never mind. No, but a school might well like it, or a church. The only reason, I don't have the guy's number from last week, so I have no way, unless he's listening. And we don't really want to turn this show into a swap meet.
Right.
Although there are such radio shows, at least there used to be in my youth. I got an old John Deere 650 Combine harvester I'm willing to trade for 12 toilet seats. Has anybody got that? I'd be glad to. They used to be, didn't they? Am I wrong? Didn't there used to be shows like that, radio shows like that? I think they did.
Well, they probably were.
Yeah. Only in very small towns. I don't want to get in that business, but there are definitely charities that would love to get that, and you get a deduction.
Okay, that's great because it's really sad. I didn't want to just trash it, and no one seemed to want it because of the Wi-Fi.
Right. Nowadays, printers, you know, you have to hook that one up with a printer cable, which is
right. And I have that.
Yeah. Well, good. Write that on the note. Cable included. Yeah. That'll help. Yeah. Hey, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Thank you, Janine.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
You're
you.
Jeannie. Take care. I'm laughing through my tears because, of course, as you might imagine, my home and office are filled with things that I bought with the best intentions and never used. Never used. Not uncommon in the life of a tech person. Hey, let's go to Napa, California. I was just there last night. Lori on the line. Hi, Lori.
I didn't see you.
I was over at Gott's getting a hamburger. Man, the lines. Wow.
Oh, I know. I actually live in St. Helena. It's the same here.
Oh, there's a Gott's in St. Helena, too. Yeah, I love St. Helena.
Yeah.
That's my favorite town in the world. Yeah. Really cute.
Yeah, just moved here about 10 months ago. It's so cute. I know. Totally walkable.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
So my question is about routers.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you know when a good router has gone bad.
10 p.m. tonight, when good routers gone bad.
When you know.
On 2020, good routers gone bad. Well, there are a number of...
I've had this thing for a long, long time, and I don't know if it's an Apple thing or what, but, I mean, sometimes I cannot get my phone to connect. I can't.
That's one way.
I have a tablet that I use only because it's old. I use it for time and temperature, and I have it right here. And it seems like I'm constantly having to hook up, and yet I never have a problem with my iPad. My TV is online all the time. Oh, my TV is wired, though. Never mind. But the tablet is...
So that's one of the ways you know is if you're having trouble. In fact, Apple stopped making that router quite a while ago.
No, it's a Netgear.
Oh, it's a Netgear. I'm sorry. I thought you said it was an Apple. Okay. Yeah, they got out of the router business. It was a terrible business. No money to be made in routers. So routers don't go bad so much because they're solid state. They are computers. And because most routers don't have fans in them, they can go bad from overheating, from getting too much use. Sometimes a router will stop working at higher temperatures, so you'll be downloading something big, and it just fails because it gets hot as all those bits are coming in, and eventually it goes, I give up. That's not what you're having. It's just a specific pairing to a specific device, and that's the only device.
And it's sporadic, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest thing that obsoletes routers is simply technology moving on. And you said, how old is it?
Oh, gosh. It's probably at least 10 years old.
Yeah. So Wi-Fi's come a long way, baby. It's a lot better than it used to be. Faster, more reliable. Better for things like Zoom or since you're using an iPhone, FaceTime, things like that. So, yeah, it might be time for a new router. I would, mostly because the technology has come and gone. Another symptom of a bad router would be if you have to reboot it frequently. You lose internet and you have to unplug it and plug it in again. That's very common.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think you probably... Now, here's the one problem. Get ready for sticker shock, because that router probably cost you, $50, $100. They've doubled in price at least. And I don't know if that's chip shortages, new capabilities, or price gouging. Impossible to tell. But they are. You go to the router store, and they're much, much more expensive. What do you have hooked up to your router? Your TV, you said, is hardwired. So you're using some hardwire and then some Wi-Fi.
And, a couple of iPads. The one iPad is just static. I just have it for time and temperature.
Nice.
But it's always losing its connection. Maybe it's because it's old. I don't know.
It may be old.
The other thing. Yeah. And then, so primarily my iPad, my newer iPad, and my iPhone. Those are the two main things. So I'm not a heavy user.
No, you're not.
I'm the only one.
And the TV, TV is connected via Ethernet to the router?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, in fact, that's going to be fine. Those technologies have not changed. Ethernet is Ethernet. So that will be as fast as it ever was. Although, it depends on your internet service provider. It's completely possible that you can get faster service without paying more by getting a new router, because the technologies for the routers have changed too. Are you on a cable modem? Or phone company? Phone company.
No, it's Comcast.
Comcast, yeah, it's cable modem.
Yeah.
So Comcast supports a technology called DOCSIS 3.1 that's only a couple of years old that lets you go up to 1,000 megabits a second. Now, you may not need that. You may not be paying for it either. But you may be artificially limiting the speed by using an old router that is only DOCSIS 2. So all of these things are involved in this. Get a new router. You could call Comcast and say, I want a new router, and they'll give you one. You'll rent it to you for $10 a month, but that's maybe...
no. See, I've had this for 10 years.
You're smart. You don't... Yeah, look how much you got out of it. Yeah, that's $1,200 you saved. That's a lot of money.
At least.
Yeah.
Do you have...
Get another Netgear. They're very good. Asus is very good. And you don't need to spend much more than $150, I don't think. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Security features will be better. For instance, 10 years ago, you probably couldn't use WPA2. And so the WE...
Yeah, I could.
Oh, you can? Okay, good.
It was kind of leading edge at the time,
Yeah, and you've updated the firmware ever on it?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, probably that was part of the improvement, too. I don't know if it's bad.
Would that cause, on my, when I am trying to hook up, and I've got, the 2.5 and the, both frequencies, it's a dual band.
So you have 2.4 and 5 gigahertz on that.
And 5, correct.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's probably 802.11n, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for $150, you can get a better router for sure. TP-Link makes the least expensive routers out there. They're not bad. Netgear makes very good routers. And I actually, the Nighthawks are very good. They're a little more expensive. I'm looking at a Nighthawk Netgear, $379. That's crazy.
Whoa.
I know.
Yeah, no.
Sticker shock. So maybe TP-Link. You go to Amazon. It should work out of the box. You just swap it in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't forget though to go in on do my 5 fixes to all Wi-Fi routers. You want to change the password so it's and the name so it doesn't say, TP-Link or Netgear on it, and change the login password. Turn off a couple of things you want to turn off. One is wide area management. You don't want to be anybody to manage your router from outside your house. So turn off WAN management, they call it. You want to turn on encryption and use WPA2 encryption and set a good password for that. And then the last thing you want to do is turn off universal plug and play.
That I don't understand because I did that one time per your suggestion and nothing worked anymore.
Well, in that case, don't turn it off.
Yep.
Wow, nothing worked?
No. I turned it off, and all of a sudden, nothing would hook up to the router.
Wow.
So,
that's not right. That shouldn't be. Universal plug and play is really only used by a few things like your Xbox, so you can serve games. I don't know why you would use UPnP for Apple doesn't use it. Huh.
Yeah.
When you get your new router, you can turn it off.
I'll try it again.
Yeah.
I'll try it again.
Something else went wrong there.
Yeah. So when I am trying to connect, let's say, sometimes my phone will go most of the day, and I keep going in and trying to reconnect it to my router. And
if it's dropping, it may also be that it's just weak, and you're going a little bit beyond its capability, and then the phone turns off and doesn't join it again automatically. And I think a new router will absolutely fix that.
So you know the part about where the Apple devices will say, or put it next to another Apple device which is hooked up to the internet.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, I'm smashing them into each other.
No, that's not going to help. That's not going to help.
And I don't understand, too, why it says, this is the wrong password for da-da-da, you know?
Yeah, well, that's why it's not joining up. Yeah. That's weird. I get a new router, but don't spend more than $150. You don't need anything fancy.
Yeah, usually they have them at Costco for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Nice to talk to you. Have a good day.
It's a nice day in the neighborhood, isn't it?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
A beautiful day for a neighbor. Won't you be mine? I'll see you in Healdsburg. I love Healdsburg. Take care. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy again. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director. She holds the baton, directs the orchestra, keeps us entertained. I don't know how you got the tuba player to sing Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir, but more power to you, Professor. Thanks also to Kim Schaffer. She's our phone angel, without whom no show should be without. And thanks especially to you for calling in, for listening in. Couldn't do it without you, so I appreciate it. I really do. I know everybody says that, but I do. I mean it. Last couple of calls before we hang it up for the week. Don is on the line, Springfield, Illinois. Hello, Don. Hello, Don. Wrong line. I pressed the wrong button. Oh, it's John, not Don. Don, I'll get to you next. John from Richfield, Connecticut. Hi, John.
Hey, Lou. Good evening. How are you doing?
I am well. Good evening to you, sir.
Well, it's almost evening here on the East Coast.
4:47 on the East Coast.
There you go. I got some CDs and some old audiobooks and music that I was wondering if there's some way I could listen to them on an iPhone.
Yeah, but you have to rip them.
Free player. I can make them, export them to MP3. I didn't know about digital rights management and everything else, and then I don't have a player.
Well, the beauty of the CD is there's no digital rights management, no copy protection on it. So that's easy. You just. In fact, you can do it. Do you have iTunes?
On my computer.
Yeah. So you do with iTunes. So you obviously have to have a CD player. We were just talking about that. If you don't, you can get one for, $20. It connects via the USB port. You put the CD in. iTunes, there's some settings that you can say how high the quality is. Rip it as high as the quality as you are willing to spend the disk space for. Of course, better quality means bigger files. I generally rip in Apple lossless, which means I'm getting exactly the same bits that are on the CD. And the iPhone will play that back just fine. You can copy it to your iPhone from iTunes. So you rip it into iTunes, it'll become part of your iTunes library, and then you can copy it onto the iPhone. That's how to do it with that. Now, the audiobooks are copy protected. Where did you get them?
Oh, it's been a long time, but that's the beauty of it. I don't remember them anymore.
I have no idea. So you can tell maybe by looking at the file extension. If it's AAX, for instance, that's a copy protected Audible file from audible.com. If it's M4B, which is the book format that iTunes uses, it may not be copy protected. And then you could just Go ahead.
Yeah, they're on disc.
Oh, they're on a disc. Oh, if it's all on CDs, you can just take one by one, put the CDs in. You don't even have to use iTunes. That's just easy because the iTunes will then copy it to the phone. But you just put them in one by one. iTunes has an import function. You'll import the contents of the CD. iTunes, and the other reason to use iTunes, it looks up the CD and it assigns the right name to each song and so forth, and the artist and everything. So you're importing it. The books, it may not do that, so you'll have to manually name those files. When you import them with iTunes, you want to make sure you check the box that says this is a book, because it'll then make it an M4B file. It's functionally the same, but it tells the iPhone or your computer or whatever else you're playing it back on, this is a book. Unlike music, don't restart at the beginning every time I play it. With a song, you don't want to start a song in the middle where you left off. You start a song at the beginning. With a book, you want it to start where it left off. So that's how Apple makes the distinction. It's the same file format and everything, but it just says, oh, this is a book, so start it where you left off. And that's
I didn't realize I had iTunes on the iPhone. I saw the iTunes store.
No. So what, are you using Windows?
No, I have iTunes on my Mac computer.
Your Mac, perfect. Actually, they call it Music now, but whatever. Yeah, that's how you should do it. You have a Mac and you have an iPhone. When you hook up the iPhone and the Mac, if you've never hooked it up before, it'll say, "Do you trust this computer?" You say, "Yes, I trust it. It's my computer." You press the trust button. Then iTunes will give you the option to copy those the music files or the book files over to the iPhone, and then the iPhone will play them back in the music player.
On the music player. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. The tricky thing is copy protection, but it says if they're all on CDs, there won't be any copy protection. The other thing is to make a book be a book, not music, so that it doesn't start up again in the beginning, which is very annoying.
Right. Yeah. I definitely want to know where I left off.
Yeah. It's so annoying. Yeah. That's the only tricky thing. Okay.
We'll look for that checkbox. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome, John. It's in the settings, in the import settings probably, or the info settings on the song, or the book. Hi, Dan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Don, I'm sorry. Or is it Dan? I can't tell.
It's Don.
It's Don. A looks just like an O in that little tiny print. What's up?
It's okay. So I bought a new Dell laptop with Windows 11, and they won't let me use Chrome on it, so I've been using Edge.
Wait a minute. They won't let you?
They won't let me download Chrome.
Oh, they'll let you. No.
The guy at the store said I can only download apps from the store.
Okay, you got Windows 11, not Windows 10S.
I'm not sure what they call it.
So there is a very simple, Microsoft doesn't offer this anymore. Very simple version of Windows called S, which is the only version of Windows that won't let you download Chrome. It says all from the store. Now, the guy at the store may be wrong. If you do have Windows 10S, the first thing you're going to do, and this is the reason Microsoft doesn't sell it anymore, if you got it, do you get it at a big box store like a Costco or a Sam's Club or something?
Best Buy.
Yeah, Best Buy. They may have had old systems with S mode on it. Actually, I guess you can have Windows 11 in S mode, but the good news is turn it off. You don't want it. Because you want Chrome. You don't want Microsoft to tell you what you can. So you go to settings.
Okay.
And now depending on 10, it's in the security section, but it sounds like you got 11, right?
Yeah, I got 11.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had S mode for 11. You go to the system control panel under activation.
Activation, okay.
Yeah. Wait a minute, are they going to charge you for this? There should be a way to switch out of S for free. On the page it appears in the Microsoft Store, select the Get button. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to take you to the store where you're going to then say, I don't want to use S, and it will then upgrade. It should do this for free. Don't do anything that costs money to Windows 11 plain. Then you can install whatever the heck you want.
Okay, yeah. So the main point was I was using Edge, and it kept coming up with all these silly ads for using Bing and using.
Oh, I know. Edge it's so annoying. Oh.
It even comes up with an ad to use Edge, and I'm already using Edge.
It's so annoying. So Edge is Chrome. Basically, Microsoft took Chrome, de-Googled it, put their own stuff in it, including, weirdly, things like a coupon finder, which I should not be in a browser. I'm with you 100%. It's not a bad browser. You could turn all those features off. But you want Chrome, get Chrome. Chrome is, totally dominant in the browser world. But you have to turn off S. That's the key.
Okay. Sounds good. I didn't know that. I appreciate it, Leo. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can't believe they're still doing it. You must have got an older system. And actually, the 11S, I guess, it's for schools, I think, right? People, kids. I don't know. Anyway, that's it for the Tech Guy Show. The website, techguylabs.com, is open now and free to all week long. I will be back next week. Might have something to say about what Apple announces on Tuesday. Might even be the proud owner of a new Mac something. If I am, I will tell you about it. Otherwise, I hope you have a great, safe Geek Week. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. I guess I have what? How much time do I have? 20 seconds. Okay, I would like to thank every person up in the Network Operations Center who makes this show
possible. I'm going to start with Sam and Joe. Thank you. Thank you, Fred, Tom, Alex, Jason. I appreciate it. Thank you, Timmy, Sally. Thanks to all of you. I see Johnny. I see Joey. I see all the boys up at the transmitter site. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.